I think my mindset with freedom as a trader, I think that being very independent is what made me want to be a trader, because I don't want to have a boss. I want to be able to be totally living life on my own terms. When I go hiking, I like to be the one that's leading. When I go skiing, I like to be the one that's in front. When I ride my bike, I like to be the one that's in front. And I've had friends who are like, they always like to be the one that's behind. Right. And that's a friend that I really enjoy going skiing with, because that's like where they want to be. And naturally, that's great. You can't have two people going in.
So you and Ted can go skiing together.
Yeah, because you like to follow.
I like to follow.
Yeah, that's awesome. And
on a river, I like to lead.
Okay. Well,
for kayaking.
All right. So that's interesting. But I think that the fiercely independent part of me is the part that's like, I don't want to do things just because I'm told. I don't want to do homework. I want to do things that I love, that I'm passionate about.
Right.
And trading is sort of a means to an end. Initially, that was my thought, that it would allow me to live a life that was free, because I would spend an hour, 90 minutes trading, and then the rest of the day is mine.
Right.
And I can kind of do this homesteading lifestyle in Vermont. I can, garden. I can chop up firewood. I can, work on my diesel engines. I can live this life that I wouldn't be able to live if it weren't for the money I was making in those 90 minutes.
Right.
So it's just kind of like a means to an end. I think initially that drive, that was more of not a fear-based motivation, but a really more of a I don't know, I'm thinking of fear being kind of pushing and a drive being more pulling.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I was thinking of that too, the opening up to something, that pulling.
In one of our presentations, we talk about the positive and negative mind.
Okay.
On the positive end of the spectrum, the positive mind is always yes,
It sees every opportunity.
Yeah. The negative mind sees, it's no, because it sees all the obstacles.
Right.
And we actually need both of those.
Yeah.
So we talk about cultivating the sense of
the neutral mind.
The neutral mind, where you're actually extending your awareness into both of those aspects of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really related to the whole idea of self-energy, of being in that place where you can hear from all of the different parts of you. So when when you were talking earlier about this part of you that is more linked to knowing that bad things can happen, kind of connected to a legacy burden, it seems like, right? So something that happened, something that happened, and your mother lived with that, and she lives with that, and you experienced that, all in different, a little bit different ways, different degrees, but that's one part, and then having this part that has an excitement and enthusiasm, is really drawn to the idea of independence and the freedom that trading offers. Having more awareness of all of the parts is really being in the neutral mind, hearing from them all, and allowing them or acknowledging them all. In this way where you're not so pulled by one or another, where you're more open to that input, and you can see the possibilities. You can also see the dangers. And it keeps you in that middle path.
I think one of the things that blinded me really early on from being able to sort of objectively look at day trading was the fact that I jumped in with real money right away. And on my first couple trades, I did make money. My first couple trades, I made money. And I was like, wow, in
so
5 minutes sitting on my couch, I can make $300-$400. This is amazing. So I got a taste of the potential. And I kind of, extrapolated. I was like, okay, so if I can do this, five days a week for the next year, I'll make this much money, and I'm my life, it's free.
And that's how our mind works, right? If something happens one time, we're like, I can replicate it.
And so I think that was the very positive side that was doing that. And so then I continued trading, and I was also in a life circumstance where I really couldn't afford to not trade. I felt that I couldn't afford to not trade with real money because I needed money to pay my bills. And so I justified continuing to trade with real money. I then started having losses. And so the part of me that was like, okay, trading with real money without a proven strategy is risky. That voice was, kind of I don't know, it was not getting through to the part of me that was like, no, now you're emotionally invested in this. The emotional stakes are high. You lost $3,000.
Right.
You need to make that back so you can
Right.
pay the bill that money was supposed to pay. And then I got myself into this sort of emotional
Right.
Because
next knot.
those thoughts that are emotionally driven,
Yeah.
they're always louder and bigger
Yeah.
than
Right.
the ones that are from the cognitive logical side
Right.
of things.
Right.
And that logic can be there all day long, but if there are thoughts and stories driven by emotions,
Yeah.
They
those
take over.
get more space. They take over.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we call mindfulness practice.
Yeah.
Mm.
That this constantly coming back to ourselves,
Yeah.
of being really present, being grounded, and being willing to to look at what all is here.
Yeah.
Especially when we have something really glaring in our awareness. Just it's taking up a lot of space and energy.
Mm-hmm.
Having the presence of mind to ask, okay, what else is true?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. I think it's very easy in that sort of emotional tunnel vision
Right.
to be focused exclusively on, I didn't make as much this week as I made last week.
Right.
And like this week in my small account challenge, that answer, absolutely. I made a lot less this week than last week. That's because I was trading with a tiny account.
Right.
So then it's like, well, this is the context.
Right.
So all of those kind of voices help provide the context. If you come
Right.
out far enough, hopefully you'd be getting a really balanced
Right.
perspective.
You begin to see the larger picture, and it's so much. I mean, it's so much richer.
Yeah.
When you can have this driven part of you, when you can comfort the frightened part of you, when you can celebrate the exuberant, excited part of you,
Yeah.
that they're all welcome,
Hmm.
that they're all part of this tapestry that is us.
Right.
And every day, if we are working on, what is the quality of this relationship I'm having with myself,
Yeah.
then we have so much a better chance at actually being successful
Yeah.
than if we're being driven from a desperate place.
So that, I think that is one of the biggest takeaways, and that's such a struggle. The fact that I often find that my students who need the money from day trading the least are the ones who become the most successful.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the students who need it the most, who are the most desperate, who that extra $200 a day would make a crazy
Right.
difference in their
Right.
life, are the ones that it just seems to constantly be out of grasp. And I've thought about that a lot and wondered, it's not a coincidence.
Right.
To the point that I've seen it. It's not a coincidence. And so those who don't need the money approach trading from a very different mindset.
Right.
The stakes are different,
Mhm.
and and when you have all of those additional pressures of when you're it's the thing that you talk about you have to trade the market that you're in,
Yeah,
not the one
yeah.
that you want it to be, not the one that you imagine
Or
would
all of
save
these other-
the market that would save your life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to show up and you have to recognize in yourself who you are in the
Yeah.
day. What you talked
Right.
about earlier about
Yeah.
recognizing when you're fit to trade.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I guess the question then is for the trader like myself when I was getting started who can't help the fact that I need the money from trading in
Right.
order to make this work. How can you fake the mindset to make it? You know what I mean? How can you adopt that mindset?
And that's where the loving relationship with ourselves really comes in. We can't skip that step.
We can't put everything in a box and try to hammer down the lids.
Yeah.
We need to really be honest with what we're experiencing.
Right.
And it is helpful if you have supportive others in your life that support you, but the primary support comes from yourself.
Right.
Of really meeting yourself with compassion
Yeah.
around what you're experiencing.
So in the context with me with this small account, the pressure is really high. The stakes feel really high. I'm sure every season for Tom Brady feels
Yeah.
Sure.
the stakes are really high.
Can you
wanna make
imagine?
You want to make it to the Super Bowl, and so for me, because I made this stupid decision to do a new small account challenge, you know, it's not a stupid decision because it really is good for the students.
Right.
And ultimately, I think that is the most important thing right now. But because I've done this, it feels that the stakes are high.
Right.
That yes, if I fail and if I blow up the account, it feels that would show, you know, a failure in my strategy. It would be like, you know, a failure in the system, and it's like Chernobyl. You know, it's like it's kind of not a good thing to have happen.
Right.
Could it happen? Yeah. Could I recover from it? Absolutely.
Right.
Would it just be part of the
And
journey?
that recovery and that journey might be the most educational
Sure.
thing that
You learn
you know,
something.
a real opportunity to teach
Yeah.
and demonstrate, right?
To see how you recover from that.
Yeah.
And even just, you know, as well, that's one of the things that a lot of students have talked about is that they really appreciate in what you do is those, you know, the red
Red
day
recaps.
recaps,
Yeah.
right? Your willingness to put it out there.
Yeah.
Here are the mistakes I've made.
Yeah.
Here's how I feel about it,
Yeah.
and here's what I'm going to try to do tomorrow.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking. That was sort of, that's honestly, it's the only thing I could have done. Even if from now forward I do have a day that wipes out the account,
Right.
or the next time I do a small account challenge, it happens.
Right.
It's part of the experience, and it's real, and it's
Right.
sometimes that happens, and the only thing you can do is get back on the horse.
Right.
So that part of me is the part of me that has acceptance over it, but there's the other part of me that does have that pressure of you
It have to do something more.
yeah, you
Right.
need to blow out this challenge, and like right now I'm tracking much higher in terms of growth and faster than the last time I did this. And I'm like, Ross, you're not trying to make $100 grand in 45 days.
Right.
And yet I can't do anything. Like,
Right.
you know, the other day we were going to a wedding, and my wife had been getting ready for like an hour and a half. And I was downstairs, and my sister was like, you literally have to leave in 4 minutes. And I was like, you think I can't get myself dressed in a suit in 4 minutes? Watch me. And I like set the timer on and I like everything to me has to be like this.
Yeah.
I'm just that type of person that I'm competitive. I am progressive. I want to be successful. I want to do better and better.
Yeah.
And that part of me is the part that's putting a lot of pressure on me for this, which as compared to the pressure a new student might feel that I need to make this money this month or I don't pay my bill. Pressure is pressure.
Right.
You know, I don't want to seem tone deaf and say that I'm not successful and that this isn't sort of just an experiment, but the way my heart was pounding today, the stress around this, it doesn't feel that different from how I felt 10 years ago when I was getting started. Pressure is pressure, stress is stress.
Well, in the context of what we've been talking about, it's when we can notice, wow, that voice is really loud right now.
Yeah.
Huh, why is that so loud right now?
Yeah.
Being able to look sort of underneath, you know, what is the vulnerability there? You know, what is so that part, you know, I'm afraid of looking foolish, I'm afraid of, you know, falling on my face in front of everyone.
Yeah.
You know, all of those things.
Or if not outdoing what you did before,
Right, you name it.
diminishes what you already achieved.
Right.
So in that question of, okay, well, what else is true? I have done well. This isn't the only measure of success in my life. This isn't the only thing that's important. What else is important? And waiting until you can actually remind yourself of that. Slowing down, taking that breath, breathing into that space so that you can, you know, find your ground again, find your center again.
Yeah.
You know, these thoughts that I'm having, are they taking me further away from myself or closer to myself?
I think when I'm in the flow state of trading, which today I think that I was in that state because we had the stock that was moving so quickly. I had like 5 trades on it and they were all pretty quick, and I was just like, I see it, I'm getting it. And I wasn't hesitating, I was just acting, like out on a surfboard. And you can't overthink it. You know, you adjust your weight instinctually.
Right.
That place is a little bit of a dangerous place for me, because on the one hand, it's usually when I'm doing the very best, but I'm so in the zone of in the flow that I have kind of set aside everything else.
Right.
And so I can lose that presence of self, that, whoa, I actually just gave back a lot of profit over those last 3 trades.
Right.
Like, I need to step back. And one of the things that has helped me slow down a little bit and not get so into that has been the process of, after each trade, taking some notes on the trade. So I kind of look away from the chart.
Right.
Because as soon as I look away from the chart and I even like step out of my little office, it's like I'm in a whole new world.
Right.
Yeah.
And that for me, having a couple of those kind of threshold like circuit breakers in a way that if this happens, I do this. So either after every trade, I have to take notes. So I have to have that break, that rest period. You know, if I have more than 2 red trades in a row, I have to stop trading for the rest of the day.
Right.
That I have a few of these thresholds that once, you know, they've crossed, I have to do something that helps just kind of pop that bubble, like burst that kind of like, okay, I'm back in reality.
Come back to myself.
Hey,
Right.
I'm up $427 today on a $600 account.
Right.
Stop trading.
Right.
Like,
It's good.
You're done good. Like, all right, hands off.
Right.
Because sometimes it's easy to just keep. And I think in that moment, I think that that's kind of the nature of trading. And I don't know if that is driven by the fear. I don't know that that is driven by the. I think actually that is that very opportunistic type of like very positive side. It's like, I keep seeing things.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep going.
Right.
I could do this. I could do this. I can keep making money. I'm gonna keep going.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, and I've seen this happen with so many traders, they overstay their welcome.
Yeah.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, they go from up 400 to up only 200. And now they have a sense of loss.
Right.
And now I need to get back to being up 400.
And the fear creeps in, the desperation creeps in.
And then they're up only 100, and then they're 50, and then they're
And that's-
negative after commission. And that's this saying that I have of every day when you're trading, you are either leaving money on the table, which is to say, you're walking away, and you probably could have made more if you kept trading, but you're walking away. Or you're giving back profit, which is you traded too long and you get back profit. You're always doing one of those two. I think today I really did walk away pretty much at the top. I saw a couple of stocks that kept moving, but not a lot. I think today I pretty much did the best I could. Actually gave back maybe 10 off the top, but it's really good. But there are some days where I, in the afternoon, will be like, if I had kept trading, this could have been the day. And that gets into that FOMO, that kind of, that feeling of, well, if I had traded yesterday, the whole day, that could have been the day that, you know, put a lot of money in my pocket. So, you know, so what? You know, and you know what I mean? Like, at a certain point, it's kind of like, as long as you're hitting your daily goal, even if it's only $50, a $500 day here and there, yeah, it's nice, but if you can get by on 50 a day, you shouldn't beat yourself up.
Right.
You're taking your 50, you're making your money consistently, but yet FOMO kicks in.
Right. And that's all the importance of setting those realistic goals. So this is something that I can actually achieve.
Yeah.
As opposed to, that's what I'd like to achieve.
Right. So when the second you said goals, it triggered this kind of memory of 2 opposing months. The month of August this year, where I was thinking about not even trading. Because, you know, I'd been trading in Italy during July, and I'd lost like 30 grand. I was sort of, you know, I was still in this, I'm trying to grow the account, but I don't really know what I'm doing. What's my goal? I'm just trying to make more than 500,000 this year, which means I need to have a couple home run days.
Right.
And I was being aggressive, and so come August, I was like, you know what? I just need to step back. August is typically not a good month for me. So I was like, you know what? I wasn't going to trade, and I was like, I have to trade. You know, for my students, I have to be there. So I'll trade, but I'm going to just set my goal at $10,000, which is, my goal is typically $40,000 on a month. So I was like, I'll set my goal at $10,000. And if I can trade 2,000 shares, 3,000 shares, and make 10 grand. That's awesome. I finished the month with $42,000 of profit, and I was blown away. It was the best August I've ever had. October, a couple months later. Typically in October, my average is 50 to 60,000. I start the month of October, I go into the red. I get a little frustrated. I'm like, what's going on? October's supposed to be my big month.
Right.
I rally, I bounce out of the red and into the green. I make about $45,000 in 5 days.
Wow.
But because I started red, that didn't get me to my goal. It got me up to like maybe 30 grand on the month. And I was like, okay, I'm halfway to my goal. I've got to pedal to the metal. And over the next 5 days, I gave back the whole 45 grand.
Wow.
Right.
And I finished the month down 20 grand,
Right.
making it the worst month of my career since I started. I actually don't know that I've had a month that's worse than that.
Right.
Which, considering I've made over $1 million, is awesome.
Right.
But that's the objective side. That's okay. But the other part of me was like, this is
It's
terrible.
gut-wrenching.
And so where it comes into is, on the one hand, bless you, setting goals without having it become an expectation.
Right.
Right.
That then becomes a negative.
Right.
Because it's the expectation, the goal of 500.
And this all really hits on what you were talking about earlier about traders who really need the money,
Yeah.
not doing as well as the ones that, maybe didn't need it.
Yeah.
And that, in August, you were like the trader that didn't need the money, right? You
Yeah.
were like, I don't have super high expectations. I feel
Yeah.
pretty relaxed about this.
Yeah.
I'm not going for a home run here.
Yeah.
Whereas in
Yeah.
October,
And in August I was like, not only do I really don't need the money, I'm budgeting that I only make 10,000 this month.
Right.
And I use this I extrapolate based on my daily average through the year, where I'm at today and how much I need to be averaging for the rest of the year. And then so I know, those days in August got me caught up above.
right. So that's the
Then
importance
in
of
October I really needed it.
of these goals coming, making sure they're coming from a really balanced, grounded, centered space. Really, as we're setting our goals, to really slow down and ask ourselves, okay, where is this coming from?
That's a great question.
Is this goal that I'm contemplating coming from a place of desperation, or from a place where I feel really good and connected with myself?
Is it coming from a place of unreasonable expectation?
Right. Or from a place of, wow, that is something I really can do.
I think that honestly the goal of exceeding last year's profit is a personal competition
Yeah.
and is a performance type of thing of I need to do better
Right.
because I don't need that money. It's
Right.
much
Right.
more than like 50,000 a year
Right.
for a long time that was enough.
And not only that, but you started this account to demonstrate
Yeah,
for students,
Yeah.
to be helpful to the students.
yeah,
And, what you talk about all the time is, teaching students to follow their rules, to,
Right.
yeah,
all of the good things that you teach about trading
yeah,
doesn't require that this challenge breaks last challenge.
Right.
right. Yeah, that's kind of, I think that might be the character flaw of like being competitive
Right.
in this particular industry or this career. And I don't know how it's different from being competitive in downhill skiing. Like I'm thinking of some of these really great downhill skiers that as they get older, some of them continue to do well
Right.
up to maybe older age than to some sports, like maybe gymnastics or something. But at a certain point, they start to drop off.
Right.
And that's kind of inevitable. You don't have the linear curve all the way to 70 years old as a
Right.
skier. You just don't. And that's a hard thing maybe to accept as a skier. It'd be very hard for me to accept. As a trader, I think that very similarly, you don't have linear results because your performance, it's not about you and the mountain, which is
Right.
fairly consistent variables.
Right.
The market is so subject to change.
Right.
The cryptocurrency surge that we had in 17 and 18, it brought a lot of just momentum into the market. And that did fade a little bit towards the end of 18 and 19. Now market's at all-time highs, but people are talking about maybe a recession.
Right.
So, the market environment has changed, and that doesn't mean that you can't be profitable, that I can't be profitable, but it may mean that the year of 500 grand was a high watermark for that year or for
Right.
that strategy, and that maybe my expectation should just be 10,000 a month, and anything above that's awesome.
Right.
And sure, it's nice to make 500 in 1 year. And yeah, if you see on my annuals, it's like, up, and then down feels like, oh, that's not great. But then over the long term,
Right.
it's like, well, you're gonna have, downs, and that.
Right. And so,
Okay.
having, the goal, somewhere in the equation to always be, I want to have really realistic expectations. I want to set realistic goals.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have rules and strategies that actually make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to stick to them.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Sticking to the rules.
that is equally important as profits.
Right.